Right, so the trick of course is to make sure that we deep fry these things in oil that's not too hot and not too cold. In order to make sure that we get the temperature right, I will be using an actual temperature gauge, and my temperature gauge is digital. I have what is essentially a laser pointer, and this laser pointer will tell me the temperature of things. Now that's convenient. They're not very expensive. I think this one was $50 because I live in North America, and they let you gauge the temperature of things very accurately, which is good because we're going to have to make sure that our oil is not too hot and not too cold. Ideally, we want it to be a temperature that can deep fry our chicken legs without actually burning them to a completely golden crisp. We want them crispy rather than crisp. There we go, cooking oil. This is going to sit for a while until it gets to the right temperature, and I will see you in a bit. Right, more temperature checking. Let's see. 188 degrees means that it might be good, and one easy way to check is to take a wooden chopstick and just dip it into the oil. If the oil turns out to be bubbling around your chopstick, then it's certainly hot enough to work on chicken. A quick check shows 0 bubbles, so we'll leave this running for just a little longer. In the meantime, these gloves are fantastic. They are OV gloves. I am not being paid to tell you about these, but I love them very much because they're not just heat resistant, they are steam resistant, and as someone who bakes a lot, having an oven glove that can actually resist 260 degrees Celsius when doing any kind of baking is fantastic. It means that I get to use my hands rather than having little bloodied stumps. In the meantime, let's make sure that we can put our deep fried chicken somewhere. Now this is going to be quite oily, which means that we definitely want to have enough kitchen paper towel to absorb all this rich, delicious but rich oil. There we go. That should do the trick. Stick our chopstick again and see whether there's any kind of bubbling going on around our wood. And there is, and I don't know if you can see this. I'm just going to bring the pan closer to the camera, and hopefully you can see that if I stick in my chopstick, there's quite a bit of bubbling and foaming, and that's an indication that the oil is indeed quite hot enough to do our chicken feet in. Reduce the heat just a little bit because we don't want it to heat up further. We just want to keep it at the temperature that it is right now, and then we will drop in 2 chicken feet at a time. And the reason we do only 2 rather than all of them is that they're actually quite sticky, and once you put them in the oil, they really enjoy sticking together. When deep frying, it is of course always important to make sure that you have some kind of fan running. You don't want the oil, even if you use a closed lid pan like this, to escape into the house and set off any fire alarms. There is a secondary danger when it comes to frying, and that's moisture. Of course, these chicken feet are quite water-laden, and when deep frying, that moisture is going to condense onto the lid, and if we take off the lid and tip it into the oil, that will literally cause an explosion from the water instantly getting so hot that it vaporizes and causes a giant air bubble, well, not really air bubble, water bubble inside the oil, splashing everywhere. So one trick is to just lift off the lid gently, and then there you go, gently lift up, making sure it's off the pan. You can see that it's starting to deep fry quite nicely. What we're actually waiting for is a kind of golden brown rather than whitish brown. I'm actually going to switch these two around because then you can see better what the result will be. Because these two are almost done. Deep frying normally takes several minutes if you're doing chips or you're doing croquettes or anything that requires turning something that's been deep frozen into a deep fried substance. In this case, we're using room temperature chicken legs. They really don't need that long. So I'm slowly getting there. They probably need another 10-15 seconds. Right, that should do it. And there you go, 2 fantastically crispy deep fried chicken feet. We'll probably fast forward through the rest, but if we don't, enjoy the deep fry. In fact, we're probably not, at least not quite yet, because one thing to note is the sound that comes off of your frying. There is an initial step where from a unfried chicken leg with lots of water, it tries to go to a fried chicken leg where, and this is how deep frying actually works, all the water gets replaced by oil in the tissue that you're deep frying. So if you're, for instance, deep frying chips, the thing that makes it crunchy is literally oil replacing the water in the tissue of the chips that you're frying. The same happens with these chicken feet. And one thing you want to listen for is the initial mad bubbling and splashing of water and coming into contact with the oil and being drawn out of the tissue. Once it reaches this kind of bubbling, the kind of low-level, incidental, might as well not be there bubbling, you're getting close to done, and if you have something like chips or croquettes, it's going to take quite a bit for that bubbling to stop. With chicken feet, because there's so very little for you to deep fry, it won't actually take all that much time. It won't take more than a minute, if that, in order to get from a regular chicken foot to a deep fried chicken foot. So kind of suspect that these are already done. And since we only have 3 left, we'll just try and do 3 at the same time. This might not work! But hopefully it does. And there we have it. Deep fried chicken feet. Now we're going to have to chill these